Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Podcast with your host, Dr. Tony Huang. Today, I'm with a special guest, Debo. Can you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Tony, for having me on your podcast. Hi, I'm Debo Dutta. I'm the Chief AI Officer of Nutanix, and I wear multiple hats doing exciting things to help our customers' next-gen AI workloads run on Nutanix, as well as improve Nutanix and help all our employees get more innovative and productive.
So you guys run enterprise in your own enterprise platform, and I'm curious to see what have your customers been saying about trying to implement Gen AI on an enterprise scale? Like, how is that different from, say, like a small scale approach?
That's a very interesting and fun question. So, what we see with our customers is everybody wants to deploy Gen AI applications. So, they initially start with POCs, and now they want to figure out how they want to scale this. And that is a really non-trivial problem because it's a long journey which we can tease out in multiple phases. And in the first phase, I would say that what our customers are really looking for is to take one or two such use cases and put them in production, mostly around talking to their private data that they have within their enterprise already.
I've noticed that a lot of companies have a big problem with trying to productionalize their Gen AI solution. Most
Mhm.
of the companies I've spoken to, they're typically stuck in the Gen AI phase. Do you know why that most companies are stuck, like from your own point of view?
Yes, absolutely. So we've seen this several times. As I said, they start with a POC. Usually the POC is using OpenAI or some other cloud provider like Gemini. And and then that happens very quickly. But when they have to bring this, say, application, let's say talk to your private data, application back on premise, now they have to work with the governance structure of their own IT organization. And we see a couple of problems that's happening in the industry. So the first of all, there's a skills gap within the enterprise to move this applications to production. That's number one. The second one is enterprises come and tell us, I don't know where to start. So they need some simple solutions and a starting point for the production journey. And the third one is people are really concerned about data and model governance and privacy. And that is something that one cannot compromise with. And I think these are the three major challenges that kind of prevent the rapid onboarding of Gen AI applications within an enterprise. And as a chief AI officer within Nutanix, we've seen similar journeys for our own use cases, and we've actually and overcome those hurdles because we now have a platform that an enterprise IT, our own IT staff can then easily incorporate within their own workflows.
I've seen a lot of companies like use like off-the-shelf solutions like Microsoft AI Studio or like one of these like studio like low code turnkey solutions. And what I've noticed is that like a lot of times they don't really get the performance that they're looking for, such as because of the fact that they're using like real world company data that's not clean. And so like to me, I always think we got to start at trying to clean for our company's first party data in order to get the most benefits out of an AI solution from like an enterprise approach. Have you seen that type of problem with like your customers where they're trying to throw in like an unclean data set into your like a platform? It's not working the way that they're looking at because the problem actually originated from their own data, not being like the AI, what I would call like AI ready. Like, what's your point of view on for like unclean first party data at an enterprise
Yeah.
level?
So actually, you hit the nail on the head. So when we were doing one of our own use cases, so we have an internal support bot turned into now an agent, which helps our own support engineers talk to our own private data and our product documentation to answer questions to provide the delightful support that we are known for. And when we tried to build this, and this is an in-house software, so when we tried to initially build it, we noticed the same problem that you just alluded to. Like the real challenge is not in getting the best LLMs. but it's about pairing them with the right and the clean enterprise data. And we, of course, put together a data science team. And over time, we've ramped up the accuracy of our support part. So that diligence is very custom. It depends on where your data is, your enterprise data, how clean is it. And if you want to tune a model or you want to do better retrieval augmented generation, you need to have your own private evaluations, which means you need your gold standard data set. Most enterprise folks do not think in terms of that gold standard data set as an enterprise asset that they need to focus on. So we've gone through that journey in the last 1.5 years. I tell all my customers our journey so that can help them in their own AI transformation.
So for the delivery team, once you get your first party data like situated and then you build out these solutions, the next step is actually like productionalization of it, working with different departments within your organization, like legal, compliance, IT. That's always like a big
Yes.
problem, especially with something emergent like Gen AI. There's some hesitancies from different like departments that I've seen where like they don't understand the technology, so they're working a little slow, trying to get that into production. Is that kind of what you're seeing with your clients, where it's a lot more difficult to push this into prod because you have to work with different departments, and then these departments are not as well versed in like Gen AI and
Yeah, actually, Gen AI production is a multi-dimensional problem. It's basically people, process, and tech. And we see that across the industry. So it's, first of all, most enterprises don't actually have the infrastructure and the tech. But let's say we get that, because that can be solved with an enterprise infrastructure strategy. Then you need to figure out the processes. And that's where you need to involve the legal officers in the company, the security, the CISO of the company, and the product security if you're a product company. And of course, your CIO needs to be at the center of that process management and change management. And then you have to upskill your people because as Gen AI is a new field, it's very hard to find the right set of people and the right talent in the market. So one easy way is to take your own experts in your company, and let's say Nutanix, for example. We've done that. Our goal is to make our IT admins into AI admins, and that is an upskilling that we are doing, and we would hope that our customers do that too. So people, process, tech, these are the three dimensions of the change management process that we see.
so for people listening at home, is there like a good way, like what's a good avenue to begin upskilling for Gen AI? Do you read a book, talk to somebody? What's a good place that you can dip your feet to get into it?
Actually, off the top of the thing that I actually recommend to most people is a course by Andrew Ng called Gen AI, Generative AI for Everyone. And depending on their roles, we suggest other material. And if you're an engineer, then there's a separate track and so on and so forth. But I think everybody needs to be a user of generative AI. And within our company, we have enabled everybody to use the Copilot.
So like you bought these like off the shelf like Gen AI solutions like Copilot, like the Copilots or maybe like Perplexity to get people used to like using Gen AI. Are there any other cool tools that you can recommend? Like for me, I recommend maybe getting yourself like a chat bot like ChatGPT or Claude or one of those chatbots out there just to play around with it, get to understand how to prompt it, maybe use like Perplexity for news. There's like other useful AI features like 11 Labs if you're trying to do like text to speech, or Synthesia if you're doing like text to video generation. At least like top of my mind, those are like nice places to get started for Gen AI. Do you have any like recommendations for the audience?
Yeah, so I think you can pick any copilot that your enterprise IT will authorize, and we have a list, and we are continuously evaluating. So I think what's happening in the industry is that the competition in the copilot space is so fierce. You pick any one of them, even the free or the lower price tier, you're going to get a lot of benefit for every employee to start experiencing how to be more productive and not just be productive. I would say be more innovative in the so right now we are at the Wright brothers moment of AI, and the and we And with this industry, it's going to grow. It's going to grow tenfold, if not more. And everybody can be an expert in leveraging how to use these copilots of any sort. And so we are evaluating different copilots and tools for different organization. And also we are trying to, as I told you, right, for our support folks, we have our own support bot. For some of the developer activities, we have our own internal tools. But the TLDR is pick any copilot that your company is willing to let you use, because that would have been vetted by IT.
So once you get done with trying to upskill your folks and you're trying to build like a product for your company, what's like the best way to create like a moat right now? Isn't it difficult to create moats in industry because Gen AI is moving very fast and you can create a product very rapidly. Like creating a moat is like a lot harder to do other than trying to take your own data and maybe train it on a model so people don't know how it works.
Yeah, you already alluded to the answer.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of ways to create a moat for companies. I feel that your data is your IP, your cleaned up data, your gold standard data. And you can see that play out even in the consumer space with the moves that people are making, right? Data is your gold. And models are obviously improving every day, but there will be a time when they'll also plateau. That's my prediction. And you will have improvements, but it will be the law of diminishing returns. So other than data, the real moat is your people, is your human capital in a company. So if you hire smart people and you upskill them to actually run faster and be more productive and innovative with AI, that is a moat. And the third one is if you actually do this enterprise transformation with not just chatbots, but with actually AI agents, I think you can really accelerate your digital transformation as a whole. So data and of course data and then people and your AI transformation. It's important, it's imperative for enterprises to actually start yesterday on this journey.
Now, you guys have built your own enterprise AI solution. Can you like tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely. Our enterprise solution is called Nutanix Enterprise AI. It is a platform to help with a few clicks of a button run any large language models, either from Hugging Face or from use an NVIDIA NIM to quickly deploy this for the enterprise operated by the IT persona. And that allows the enterprise IT to be in full control of the models, which are your primary asset, your data and your models. And it gives the enterprise IT simplicity, the security and the control, as we talked about, and predictable cost. So that is the enterprise AI platform that runs on top of our Nutanix cloud platform. It's part of the Nutanix cloud platform. So now when you combine this, you have all the Lego blocks you need to build the next gen agents and other applications that the enterprise has to build in order to transform themselves. So we are ready for our customers' transformation. And this platform runs anywhere, wherever the customer needs to run it, be it in the data center or on public cloud, or even at the edge, maybe on a factory shop floor.
Now, I know that we have a lot of chief security officers listening in on this platform, and they're probably wondering like, how does somebody or how does like a company like secure the data from like data leakage? That's always a big problem, especially for like companies that deal with restricted data, like we're talking about HIPAA data or like PHI data. What's like a good way to get started from your point of view?
So I think for data governance, the first thing is to do data discovery and data classification. And I would recommend all my colleagues over here on this podcast to do that process diligently and figure out what's the data, where is the data, who has access to the data, and what do you want to do with the data. And in addition to that, have a process for creating gold standard data sets so that next gen agentic apps can be built with those gold standard data sets. And I think that is for the AI transformation. That kind of data governance, bridging the data governance and AI governance together is a hard problem.
I know that a lot of companies right now they're struggling to get an AI strategy put together, form like an AI committee that typically has like representatives from different areas of different lines of business together, and everyone's like finding things out as they build it because there's no gold standard because this industry moves so fast. And so, like for instance, at my work, I spun up like an AI governance, brought in all of the lines of business, and initially we like built a really like big workflow, but then we had to chop it up into smaller pieces. Is that kind of what you're seeing from your customers, where like they're in terms of like their journey?
Yeah, so our customers, their needs vary and their level of maturity also varies. Some of our customers are really advanced. They already have all this governance stuff figured out. Some people are just starting, and for them, we can give them our journey. So as a concrete data point. So what internally we've done is pretty much similar to what you just mentioned, right? We do have a governance committee, committee, where we have the key stakeholders. And the way we make progress is actually to figure out and if you're starting afresh, my suggestion is figure out what your business goals are first and figure out a few use cases where you can actually validate those goals, set those OKRs and get to them. And in order to do that, you'll have to put things in production, which we talked about already. And in order to do that, I think the first thing is a data governance strategy coupled with an infrastructure strategy. For example, where do you want to run a particular agent? Does it need to run on your factory shop floor or in your headquarters or in the cloud? That is very specific to the business and the business goals.
In terms of like use cases, like what have you seen from your customers? When I was talking to other like companies, it looks like the primary use case that keeps recurring is just like a chat bot sitting on top of like a knowledge base. That's so right now, like a lot of companies have siloed, segmented data. They want to be able to like query that data very fast with like through a Gen AI approach, like a chat bot. But they also don't want to just use like a chat bot per line of business. They want to have a enterprise wide chatbot that spans across all the different like databases. Is that kind of what you're seeing in terms of from your customers for the say like the big use case?
So the biggest use case is some variation of what you just mentioned. It's talk to my private data. And that can have different ramifications, and it depends on the exact customer. Some customers, they actually want different chatbots with enterprise grade security and access control. And some people want one single chatbot, which will then it will be an agentic workflow. Depending on the request, it might get directed to a couple of different agents. So multi-agent chatbot or a single agent chatbot, but with enterprise grade control and data governance and being operated by enterprise production IT with the right set of features. That's one of the common use cases. The other use case for a lot of technology companies that we see is how do I make my developers and quality assurance engineers get more creative, productive, innovative? And basically, the entire development software development lifecycle is getting very different with Gen AI. So that's another like a canonical use case. So talk to your private data. I call it talk to my private code. Uh,
Yeah, because I know like another big use case is like code development, like through coding assistance. That's like the big hot thing.
yes.
So like you have these big companies like Cursor, Windsurf,
Yeah.
GitHub Copilot. Those are like the really popular coding assistants out there, and we're seeing that like a lot of at least I'm seeing like the way that like an engineer works now is completely different than what it was say like 5 years ago, right? So you're able to like move a lot quicker, a lot more nimble. You can operate as if you're a small team with less people, with the augmenting it with AI coders. How have you seen that with say with your clients in terms of AI assistance? Because I'm seeing like you're able to produce code very quickly. You can run like unit tests on it. You could even act as if you could have the system act as if it's like a PM. So it could write like to-do lists. It could write like sprints for you. So essentially you can act as if you're like a small team, even though you only have a couple people. At least that's what I've noticed when I talk to a lot of companies is that they're able to react or act as if they're a much larger company through the assistance of these AI like coding softwares.
Yeah, so I think it's a very intriguing question, and we can go in multiple directions, but I'll give you my 2 minute summary. We are also looking at similar tools, and both external tools and also internal tools. I have a small team of research scientists with PhDs. And what we noticed is that these new models and the tools like associated with these models are very good at producing boilerplate code, simple unit test very rapidly. However, if you have very complex domain logic, you still have to be good at prompting. And if you're writing distributed systems, you still have to figure out the design. In many ways, as you just alluded to a couple of minutes ago, we have to start thinking differently. The next generation of university grads will still have to think differently. I'm not sure whether dramatically achieve you can achieve dramatic results with far less people. That's a very hard question. Actually, we are doing some data science study on how good these tools are going to be eventually, because if you think about the life cycle of an engineer, a smart good engineer, they spend a lot of time thinking and designing, and then some time on coding, some time on unit testing, some time on code review, and so on and so forth. So we have quantified internally some of this, and we are trying to see what's the net result. And that it is definitely going to change the way software is developed.
So for our viewers at home, if they're interested in like contacting you to learn more, what's like the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, definitely feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if somebody wants to contact me, and I'll then follow up.
And then looking into the future, what do you think is like the next hot thing? Because right now everyone's talking about like agentic systems, building agents to talk to agents. There's also MCP coming up. What's your hot take on like the next hot thing?
Yeah, so I think what you just mentioned, right? Agents talking to each other. I think it's hot now, but to get that into production is going to be a couple of years at a minimum. So I think next few years we'll see a lot of agents initially with the human in the loop. And I'm not sure when this fully autonomous multi-agent system will happen, but it can happen in theory. In computer science, you can do that. But in since it's a people, process, and tech problem, it might take longer time. And I do believe that we will invent better architectures. We'll reinvent compute and storage, networking for running these new models. And when it comes to new models, you've seen the current wave is like a lot of reasoning models, and then you'll have vision transformers are getting very interesting. Spatial models are getting interesting. So I think there will be a new set of models in the next few years. And actually, that might be more efficient. And overall, I feel better models, better communication protocols, better developer productivity. Those are like all, I would say, tactical. But if you look into the future, I would say better safety, better bias and AI safety controls. And also, I would say completely new ways of learning, reasoning, basically cognition, new ways of doing cognition. And with and if quantum really takes off in the next few years, I think quantum computing will make a lot of these, we'll have to revisit a lot of the model tech that we know today.
My big issue with like language models right now is just the biases because it's really
Yeah,
hard to remove bias from like models because it's like pouring glitter on like carpet. Like you can vacuum most of it out, but there's always gonna be those little like stragglers. So like I've seen like a lot of language model vendors try to like fine tune the bias out of it,
right.
but basically like the data is biased because it's trained off of humans who are biased. So it's like a good example would be like hiring hiring using resumes in the tech world, for instance. So like historically, it's usually people will hire like males to do the coding, and then when you take like the that data and you try to fine tune that into a model, it then starts hiring more males when it shouldn't be doing that. It should be doing it more fairly. So like it's all based on that data. So I always find that kind of fascinating to see how like vendors are going to remove bias or remove all these things that are unwanted from like language models in the future.
Yeah,
Because there's still a
I
lot of
think
work things get done.
yeah, I think it's a big research area, removing bias, making models safe. So there is an ML Commons Luminate AI Luminate benchmark that kind of addresses some of that. And being on the board at ML Commons, I've seen that develop. There's a lot of work to be done in that space.
What, in your opinion, what's going to happen in the enterprise space in the future with Gen AI?
Let me just put my soothsayer hat on. So I think, as I said, in the next 2 to 3 years, you'll see a lot of agents,
Mhm.
maybe not so much of multi-agents talking to each other, but agents and a human in the loop. So I would call them that I would love to have my own digital minion, not my digital clone, if I can just make that distinction. So there'll be a lot of that kind of digital minions. That will definitely increase people's productivity. People will have more time to think about the next big thing for their own enterprises. So that's on the productivity side. I see that as a table stake item. The enterprise IT will get transformed because today the enterprise workload is going to dramatically change to say multi-agents. So they have to invest in people process tech for that big transformation. And I also think that people will realize how valuable their own data is. Again, this is the same thing that we've touched upon so many times. And it's amazing to see that how the private data is going to be the moat, and people will actually care for it. They'll actually have processes around to protect it and process it and clean it and actually use it along with the models. So connecting the cleaned private data with models to achieve better business outcomes with the help of multi-agents.
Yeah, I view like people are going to be using like AI to do a lot of like things such as, for instance, a good example would be like research papers. You could use an AI to read through a research
Yep,
paper, give it a grade, but then you could also use an AI to kind of write the research paper to get it so that it can pass the initial reviewers like criterias. So it's like this like catch 22 where you can kind of build something and then the other person will build it in response. So I think
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's
No,
good.
so if you think about pure science, right? AI already helped win the Nobel Prize. And I think AI is a great digital minion. So if I want a research agent, now you do have deep research agents that are quite phenomenal, but it I think it still produces a good first cut for the human expert to opine on and to improve it and iterate. So I do believe that we will see maybe a more stronger collaboration between digital agents and us human experts.
Growing up on time, but yeah, thanks so much for being on the show. And until next time,
Thank you.
stay curious.
Thanks. Thanks, Tony.